Hello, welcome to today's video where today we are going to be looking at the area of a circle and how to solve the formula for area of a circle. And you can see here that I've got myself a circle and I've cut it into some pieces and then I've reshaped those pieces into a makeshift parallelogram. Now that's going to be kind of important to understand the concept of why the area of a circle is going to be equal to pi r squared. So let's get started and take a look at how this works. So when we take these four pieces and rearrange them into a parallelogram, it kind of makes it easier for us to kind of conceptualize the area. We are very familiar with the fact that area of a rectangle or area of a parallelogram is length times width. But we can't do a length times width with a circle because the length times width with a circle, we're not dealing with straight lines here. So if we continuously cut this down, we can actually make this look more like a rectangle, but it doesn't get rid of these kind of circular lines here, these arcs as we call them in circles. So how does this work? Well, if we were to take a look at this bottom part right here, the base, as we would call it on a rectangle, this would become the equivalent of half of our circumference. And we know that because if you take a look here, we've got four of these, and there are four of them here, so four of these arcs. And if we look at how many total pieces there are 8 total pieces, and we've got 4 of them down here, we know that it's essentially half our circumference. And if we think about, okay, well, what does half our circumference mean? Half our circumference, if we determine what circumference is equal to pi times d. So c equals pi times d, or it is c is equivalent to 2 times pi times r. But if it's half of that, then what we need to do is we need to be able to divide our circumference in half. So if we divided our circumference in half like this, we have a cancellation of a 2 and a 2 here, which leaves us with this base, this bottom part, being equal to just pi times r. So we have our base. Now we got to figure out our height. And if you look at these triangle pieces, these sectors that we've cut out here, you can see that this line would be the equivalent of that line right there. So technically, our height, even though it's a diagonal line, is going to be equivalent to the radius. So in this case, our height of our parallelogram is going to equal r. So if I just drew this over here and made an r, now we've got, or rather we'll do it on this side too so you can see it both. Now we've got a radius and pi and r together. So what we have here is we've got our formula. When we're solving for area, we are looking at multiplying 2 dimensions, and we have 2 dimensions now. We've got a height, and we've got a base. And it's not length times width, or base times height. In this case, we've determined that this base is the equivalent of pi times r, because it's half the circumference, and this height is going to be equal to r. So our formula for area then becomes area equals pi r squared, or pi times r times r, pi times r times r. And that gives us our 2 dimensions. So let's solve for this now. I'm going to switch colors here. Let's say that this has a radius. This circle has a radius. We'll say that line right there, r is equal to 5 centimeters. Well, now that we have the radius, we can simply just plug in our numbers. So I'm going to write the formula out here. A is equal to pi r squared. A is going to be equal to, and I don't have the pi button on me obviously, so I'm just going to use 3.14, and I'm going to multiply it by 5 by 5. Okay, so pi times radius, and that's where the formula came in. Now if I just do the simple calculation of the math, we're looking at 78.5 centimeters squared. So the total area of this circle, 78.5 centimeters squared, simply by breaking this apart. So that is a conceptual understanding of how to figure out the mathematical formula of area for a circle by breaking apart the circle and making it into something a little bit more friendly. If you have any questions, just please drop a line, and thank you for watching as always.